Welcome to the 98 Studios podcast. I'm here with Kurt Bryan today. Longtime friend, film director, awesome guy. Can't wait
Thank you, Zach.
Can't wait to get into it today. How you doing?
Good. I feel a lot more comfortable knowing you're interviewing me because you've pretty much lived at the house for, I don't know, 10 years.
About 10 years. A father figure to me. No, I just want to get into, I've been around you a ton, but not really had an in-depth conversation about what you do. So I just want to get into it. From our talks, basically, I understand that when you're first getting married, you married Marnie England.
I did. Yep.
Who
still married after.
Still married.
Geez, dude, it'll be 32 years this year. Man, that's just, even for me, that you're just like, what? Because I think your brain stops at like age 28 or something, or 27.
Yes.
And then
not quite there yet.
Your body starts getting older, but your brain's just like, no, I can still do everything. And then you can't. And then, the years just churn along.
We have that to look forward to.
Yes, you do.
It's awesome.
You do.
Her family owns England Shipping.
Trucking.
Yep.
I wish they were in shipping. There's probably more money in shipping than trucking.
Let's get them into shipping, trucking, but
very successful company. Yeah.
Yeah. Huge company. And getting married. I mean, I just got married last year. Scary with bills coming and having money. Were you offered a job?
I was
there.
Yeah. So Marnie's dad, my wife's dad, is the oldest of the England sons. And there were 6 sons. And one of them died a little bit early, and Jeff, Marnie's dad, broke off and started originally called Pride of England. And so he had these souped-up trucks, and he ran a fleet of them within CR, England and Sons. And then he eventually broke away. So now it's just Pride Transport, and I'm sure you've seen them. They're the gray, black trucks all over. They're about 1/10 the size of CR England. CR England, I think, has like 5,000 trucks.
Jeez.
And Marnie's dad has 500 trucks. So it's kind of a boutique. Her younger brother, Jay, owns it right now. But when I graduated college, I was waiting around for my film partner to get through. I took the 4-year plan. He took like the 10-year plan.
Yes.
So I'm just like waiting. We had a handshake deal that we would, start a film company as soon as he graduated. And so I went to work for her dad. And he was kind of grooming me to take the company. I was the general manager, and I loved working with those guys. And but I just knew it wasn't my future.
Yeah, that job would have set you up for life.
Pretty much, yes. I wouldn't have gone through, the veil of tears that
you would have gone through this journey that we're about to get into.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it any other way, to be honest. Marnie said the same thing. She's like, yeah, you would have worked for my dad and then just been unhappy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know if it would have been unhappy, but I probably would have redone the house 19 times, for some creative outlet.
You would have still been doing something creative. So I thought you went to school after that, but you had already graduated at that point.
Yeah, I studied English and then went to film school. Yep.
Film school and then worked for them. And then when did you know, I guess, Dave Hunter is your partner at that time?
Mm-hmm. So Dave and I grew up together. Our parents were best friends, so I've known him since as far as I can remember, 0. And we'd go on holiday and spend summers together and stuff. And he blames me for film school. I knew I was going, and he wanted to be like an agent. He wanted to represent people and get a law degree, and that would have been great too. But both our dads were lawyers, and they both said go get law degrees. And that's probably the one thing that my dad said that I should have done that I didn't do.
It turned out okay.
But so I was waiting for Dave. Yep.
So when he graduated, you were general manager at that point. Was that a hard transition, or you had already decided?
I mean, I had decided, but it was hard, really hard. And not the decision piece, but telling her dad, who had put so much trust in me and was working really hard to groom me to kind of take this thing. And believe me, it's an amazing company. And I remember I was so stressed out. Even Marnie's like, well, just go talk to him. I'm like, I'm literally throwing everything that he's wanted to give me and given me back in his face. And she's like, no, you're not. You know, he did the same thing to his dad, so you'll be all right.
It'll be okay.
So
any kids at that time?
Maybe Montana. Maybe she would have been just really young. Yeah, she's our first for those who have no idea.
Yes. Just taking that risk at like, it's scary for me to do that right now with the studio, and I have like barely anything going on right now. It's like the best time to risk it for me, but married, having a kid, walking out on a business that's a good check, and going straight to starting Halestorm.
Yeah. And the trick too, you make a good point, Zach. The trick, I mean, you do 2 years on a mission. I did. So all of a sudden you're 2 years behind in the game.
Yeah.
Then you graduate college and you're waiting around for your partner, and then a good job falls into your lap, but you know it's not the right job. And all of a sudden you're 20, I don't know, maybe 26 or 27, and you're thinking exactly what you said. What is this a good leap? And I can only imagine what her dad was thinking. You're going to leave this and go try to make a movie? What are you, crazy? I mean, even my dad's like, you're going to want to think about this. And my mom's like, you just go for it. You just go. You know?
So you had some support.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah. And my dad supported me, but he's also was like this very pragmatic. Yeah. You pick one company, you get your 10-year watch, you get your pension put together. And, you know, I'm just like, that's not my style.
Not for you. So you leave 27, 26 years old with Dave when he graduates, start Halestorm. If anyone's not familiar in Utah, then I don't believe you. You made many.
They may not know Halestorm, but if you said the Singles Ward, they'd be
Singles Ward.
Those guys.
So going into that, I mean, I want to get into detail, but 2002, Singles Ward comes out.
Yeah.
And it's immediately huge.
Yeah. So I left that company in 2000. Maybe one.
So a year later.
So yeah, we went right to work, and you know, most shows it'll take me a couple months to write, and then it'll take you a month or two in prep, and then you can shoot your film we would shoot all our films in 4-6 day weeks. So let's just call it a month, and then you have 250 hours in an edit and 200 hours in sound and another month. And that's just unheard of in, Hollywood sort of standards. They're like, we're going to take 4 years on this film.
That's pretty quick.
We are turning and burning.
Yeah.
Plus, as an independent, we had a very tight window to release in because Hollywood starts lining up all their blockbusters, especially summertime. There was no way we could compete with theater space in the summer. So we'd pick the cruddiest time of year to put out a show because, you had theater space and you hope it had a kind of a run. And so end of January that was what we had picked.
And like the risk. And then all of a sudden that movie does so well.
Yeah.
What was that feeling?
Well,
is that not how it went?
Oh, no. It was a sleeper film. So typically when you release a film, you spend a ton of money on your print and advertising to get people in your opening weekend because your box office split is 50-50. So every dollar that you make, you're giving 50% of it to the exhibitor. Yeah. And it gets worse. The longer your film runs, it like finishes out at 30%. And so our film opened up and people were like, what is this? And then the LDS crowd was like, these guys are making fun of us. We can't go see this. And I'm like, no, just relax. We're all dyed in the wool. LDS, trust me, you can take your family to this. It's okay. And so what happened was just the groundswell. I think Singles Ward played for like 26 weeks.
Oh, jeez.
Which is really long, but the exhibitors were loving it because it was selling out. And they were taking 70% of the box office.
Oh my gosh.
So
they loved it.
Yeah. They were just like, hey, what else you got? I said, stand by.
Stand by.
We will wear you out. Just wait.
Stand by, and Stand By goes to, Sons of Provo, Best 2 Years.
RM was the next follow-up. And then, Best 2 after that. And they just kind of.
an awesome cast that kind of follows through. Kirby Hayborn, one of my favorite.
Yeah, mine too.
Favorite guys.
Yeah, he's so good. And I took a little grief early on because people are like, "Oh, you're using all the same people."
So did Adam Sandler.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's because we speak the same language. We trust each other. Yeah. We're friends. Why wouldn't I?
It was fun being on set with them, I'm sure. And
yeah,
they're all awesome at improv and do a travel improv.
Here's the problem, though. And I've never had cocaine, but I can only imagine once you've had it, you probably want it a lot. And that's like movies. You make one and you're like, I have to do this forever.
Yeah. And so you just kept cranking them out.
We did. We cranked them for about 10 years, which is also sort of interesting for an independent film company, because typically one of two things happens. One, you make a movie and it tanks, and then you've lost all your private, investors, and they'll slap you on the back and say, good job, but never give you $1 again. Or you'll make one or two that do well, and then somebody will notice you and pull you up to the big leagues.
Yeah.
You're like in a farm school, and then they're like, wow, this kid knows how to make movies. Hey, you want to do something for us or something bigger?
Yeah.
And we just, I don't know if it's because we just kind of shut our doors to that or what, but our trajectory was long, very long for an independent film company that was kicking out primarily the same kind of stuff. It was all LDS, and that was not the original intent, by the way.
Oh, really?
So, well, all right, I'm gonna give your listeners an inside. So my real name, like you said, is Kurt Bryan.
Yes. And
people at home are like, what?
Nobody
He's
knows
been lying to me?
Nobody knows that.
Nobody knows that. So now everybody knows. So what happened was my grandma, Ruth Hale, and her husband, Nathan Hale, started the Hale Center Theaters.
Yeah.
And if you live locally, you absolutely know who those are. And when I graduated film school, my grandma gave me all of the screen rights to her stage plays.
Oh,
and she had written like 100 of them.
That's awesome.
So I still have those. And so even in film school, I began adapting those like immediately. And then a friend of mine from film school, we were just getting ready to graduate, and he's like, hey, I know you're getting ready to make a show. I've got a script you should look at. And I'm like, okay, what is it? And he's like, well, it's about my life. I'm like, dude, we're 25 years old. What possibly?
I've been through a lot.
Would you serve a NAM? I mean, what could you possibly have to tell? And it was the singles ward.
Oh, really?
And it was super rough. And he was a genius. He was a stand-up comedian, so he had a lot of the jokes in there. And then we kind of went in and fattened it up and turned it into the movie that it was. But
and then it worked so well. It just
kind of worked so well.
Kept going with it.
And to be fair, we capitalized on the novelty of it, obviously. Yeah. I mean, nobody was doing that at all. And so we had this, like I said, this big groundswell. And and then that just derailed us. So I put all my grandma stuff on hold. But in the meantime, sorry, I went from Kurt Bryan to Kurt Hale in homage to
the original,
to her last name, and my mom's maiden name. And then that's just stuck with me forever.
Yeah, so if you bring him up, it will be Kurt Hale, but we know we're the inside. So it goes, you said
IMDb on Kurt Hale.
Yes.
But when Zach comes over, it's Kurt Bryan.
It's Kurt Bryan. So 10 years, and then you've explained it to me, but sort of like it was going well all 10 years, and then you one day walked out, or what was that like, deciding to be done with Halestorm?
Yeah, that's a great question. And not every show worked, by the way. I think we did personally, I think we did like 10. And then we had other kids, or not kids, but people showing up with films that they wanted us to distribute. So we started a distribution company that was gold.
Yeah,
I mean, the best part of a distribution company is you typically take a 20% fee. You are advancing P&A, which is print and advertising budgets. So you're advertising all the you're advancing all the advertising, but it's kind of leaned against their show. So the risk is if it doesn't go out and make any money, and you've spent a bunch of money trying to get money, then you're out. But we were really calculated on how much we could spend on ad. And so it goes, your money back first, then you take your 20%. And so it was a really viable company. Yeah. It was good. So some of the shows that were not as lucrative as we had hoped, or lucrative is probably a bad word, not as successful as we had hoped, the distribution
made it
company was
back in
carrying
it.
us.
Sweet.
And then we had a record label that, dude, we creamed. And again, it was all novelty. Nobody was taking
I
primary
wish
songs
I was
and
a
hymns.
little bit older.
Dude, I wish you were too.
I would have been there.
You would have absolutely been there. But we took a lot of grief for that too early on. And I'm like, look, I'm not changing the lyrics at all.
Yeah.
I'm just creating a song that your kids might be interested in hearing.
Yeah.
And, with drum loops and guitar, and all that
Make
stuff.
it a little more interesting.
Just a little more up, radio friendly or whatever. Yeah. And people griped about it a lot, but I think we sold about 100,000 units of the Single Sword soundtrack.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Jeez. So
between
you're
80 and 100 for sure.
Record label, distribution, production.
Yeah.
You're doing everything. And then it shuts down, or you just walked away from it?
So there was a number of factors. One, I got to be honest, I think we were tiring out our audience a little bit, and rightfully so. Like I said, we had entered a market that was wide open, and we were kind of the only game in town. So when people wanted to see this stuff, they'd, see our stuff. And then, like I said, there are a number of other people taking a whack at it that were coming in. And it sounds terrible, but every show that went out there and bombed, they thought that we were making them.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, no, I didn't make that one.
That's not us. Not us.
And, we wish those guys well, and we know them all, but that was not us. And then 2008 hit. How old were you in 2008?
Enough to know that we were scared, but not really know what was going on. So,
so it was
8, 9 years old.
Okay, so your dad was losing his mind like the rest of dads.
He was in construction, so
there you go.
He wasn't having it.
Okay, so the housing crisis turns into the banks folding, and the whole world just literally overnight shut down. At least my world did. It was we had a show that was funded and in not in production, thankfully, but in we were just getting started, and our investors one by one, hey man, we had a great run. I'm circling the wagons. I can't do this one. Hey man, great run.
Jeez.
And so I kid you not, Zach, in about a week, we were done. Literally turned the lights off. Now, by the grace of God,
jeez.
Peterson, who owns Vivint, close friend of mine, went to college with him. I know the poor Todd, by the way.
The OG.
I knew the OG. He was renting the upstairs of this building, and he kept saying, "Hey, I need more space. Can you give me the conference room downstairs?" Sure. Hey, I need more space. Can you give me half your offices? Sure. And gratefully, in 2008, his company was skyrocketing, and he's like, "Look, I'll just take this." And we're like, "Thank you, thank you." And he put me to work for him.
Yeah, so that's the next.
So that's. I graduated from film and went right into corporate and commercials, and spent the next 10 years there, and it was a great ride.
Yeah.
You may want to ask me some questions, but just in summary, I had 7 dudes over there. I'd built a team. I had some world-class editors and a photographer that was just mind-blowing, and an animator. And
so that's what I want to get into is you are doing your own thing, and you're the boss, and you are pulling investors, of course, and getting that money, but doing your own thing, figuring it out. It's successful. And then 2008 happens. You move to Vivint, and then it's doing well. And for the last, how many years did you work there?
I was with them for about 10 years. So we made movies for 10 years, and then I did corporate and commercials for 10 years. Yeah.
And you jumped to having basically what it looked like was unlimited resources to be able to do.
I was the very first guy that they hired for their quote media department. They didn't even have a media department. I'll never forget. He knew we were crashing. He's like, "So Kurt, what are you going to do?" I'm like, I was picking up commercials as fast as I could get them. And I said, "Dude, I just got to do what it takes. I mean, I got 4 kids."
Yeah.
He's like, "Why don't you just come shoot for me until you can get back on, your feet or whatever."
Sweet.
And so I remember I made him they're a summer sales company, and they're all bros and, good looking dudes out there knocking doors. And he said, "Why don't you do a year-end video for me?" Kind of like a yearbook kind of thing. And so I'm like, "Okay, well, you're going to have to get me at least a few plane tickets. I got to go get these guys, out in the wild."
Yeah.
And
I got to have a whole show.
Yeah.
This is a whole show.
And it was me. I was just kind of a one-man band.
Oh man.
And I had an old friend. I said, hey, you got to come and shoot with me. I just need, you can help me lug cable. But we came home and slayed them. They're like, oh my gosh.
Awesome.
Is this like the singles ward, dude? And Peterson's like, hey, this might work. Why don't you just stay on? And
it worked.
Yeah.
Once again, the first thing worked again.
Yeah.
And set you up.
Yeah. And like I said, I was unbelievably blessed because it just kind of, I transitioned very quickly into that. And, I know a ton of people.
Yeah.
And I'll be totally honest. We hit the reset button. I mean, motos, all that stuff just kind of went away because we were circling the wagons ourselves too. And, house. And I mean, you remember our old house.
I didn't know if it was,
Yeah.
If we're getting into everything. Yeah. Just like going from a
hero to zero
overnight,
pretty much. Yeah.
Within a week, closing the door and walking out.
Yeah. So I mean, it might've been a little longer. Like I said, we started liquidating our record label and Scott.
But finding a new thing in that.
Correct.
It was done.
I'm telling you what, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but you're going to have this at some point in your life. It's just a rite of passage.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from it. I kept going, this sucks. I mean, I didn't ask for any of this. It's not like I had
and I'm just telling the whole story because really those 10 years is a lot of years having fun and doing amazing work. And it was
amazing and
great to see.
Paying the bills. And we weren't getting rich, but geez, we had enough money to, ride motos twice a week.
Yeah. You had thought in a sense that you had made it.
Yeah.
During that.
Yeah. It was comfortable. And we, like I said, we weren't living crazy and I didn't have a girlfriend on the side and I didn't have a drug problem. And so when all this started collapsing around me, I'm like, hey, wait a minute. This is supposed to happen to those people that are mismanaging everything.
I've been doing everything right. So you're at Vivint now. He kind of saved you in that situation.
Absolutely.
And then Unlimited.
And I've told him that 1,000 times. I'm like, dude, you saved me. So
it's awesome.
Yeah.
And then Unlimited Resources to like a team and people and building that. But at the end of the day, you're still making commercials.
Correct. I still have a camera on my shoulder. Yeah. And what I refuse to do is coming out of the film world. I refuse to make, and this might sound like an ego trip, but I refuse to make standard corporate commercials that look like ish.
You were still going to be creative.
I had to be, and I had to have a cinematic vibe or I just wasn't going to do it. I would have. I mean,
did you feel like you had the ability to still be creative? Kurt's done all the commercials for Vivint and partnered with the Jazz. So
yeah,
all the commercials for the Jazz.
Anything that came out of Vivint for those 10 years, we fingerprinted everything. I mean, that was us. That was that was us. And
so you're still doing what you loved. And then you go from Vivint, and then this is just in the last 5 years that you now step away from Vivint. Yeah. And then go into a complete different field.
Yep.
That is teaching people phlebotomy. In schools.
Yeah. Zach, it's a left turn. It's a hard left.
It's so different.
Let me walk you into it. So I'm working at Vivint, and I've got a kid there that's on my team. His name is Shane, and he has a cousin that just keeps showing up, eating lunch with us and just hanging out, wants to be in our shows. And
why is this kid here? What's going on?
Yeah, totally. And finally I asked Shane, I'm like, what does this guy do? And he said, I think he owns his own business and he's just lonely and it's just him and he's working out of his basement. And I'm like, okay. And then Shane quits, goes to another company, but this guy kept coming and we became good friends. Sweet. And it's just a great guy. And finally he's like, hey, why don't you come do my company with me? And I'm like, okay, what is it? And he's like, well, I train kids on how to do phlebotomy. And I'm like,
out of his basement?
What? I can't even spell that. And
I didn't know what it was until talking to you.
Yeah, right. He's like, no, I train kids on how to draw blood. And I said, oh, okay, random. But he's like, it's a niche. And you know that all the riches are in the niches. I mean, it's a small.
You found a couple.
Yeah, it's. You know what? And if I was teaching a business class, that's what I'd say. I'd say, find your audience and cater directly to them because they'll come back time and time again, or find a niche, where there's not super crowded space and go live in that niche.
Well, talking to you 6 months, 8 months ago, you said it was set up to open 70 schools.
Yeah. So what happens is, so he's like, hey, you got to come do this with me. And I'm like, dude, he's like, you can do the media. You can do exactly what you're doing here.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I'm doing the media for this company. I'm doing all the training, nothing sexy, believe me. But it's important stuff for what we're doing. But, and I started shooting videos for him. I'm moonlighting and, doing hype videos and promos and stuff for him, for his advertising. And
on Drawing Blood.
Yeah.
It's very hype.
Yeah. Come to my school, we'll train you and you'll get certified and
But you're still in media.
So I'm still in media. Yeah. I was like I said, I moonlighted for him. And then, he said, hey, seriously, I'm going to blow this. I've got 3 schools right now in Utah. I want to open California. And I said, well, listen, my older brother has medical licenses in California. Let's bring him up and we'll take a meeting. And my brother's super conservative. So I knew if he said green light, it was a go. If he's like, dude, no, then I would have probably still be at Vivint. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he came up, took a great meeting. Afterwards, he's like, dude, we should really look at this. And so I started, hey, this might be interesting. I can't just leave my team. I got to give them, 6 months, without sounding like a jerk. I can't just walk away and have this.
You've been with them for 10 years.
And they've been loyal and I've been loyal. We have just a great relationship and I just wouldn't do that. So I told the CMO, who was my boss, I said, hey, I'll give you till the end of the year and then I'm moving on. He's like, okay. Okay. And, so we gave him about 6 months. And during that time, he's like, hey, I'm coming with you. They were just ready to go public and there's a lot of things that were changing. And so he left the same time I did. But anyway, so yeah, I left and went there and, like I said, we had 3 schools at the time and now we have, 91.
Jeez.
And we've been doing it for 2 or 3 years. So we're really pushing hard. Look, we hope to exit at some point, but we're really pushing on it and it's a great school and we've standardized the curriculum across the country and done a lot of things that no other schools are doing. It's typically mom and pop shops that are, hey, we might have a class on Saturday. If I can get 3 students to show up, we'll have it in my garage and I'll serve you sandwiches. We've actually made it a school.
Sweet.
And that's helped a ton. And this guy I've been talking about is a genius. He's got like 250,000 blood draws. He used to draw for the Olympics. And I mean, the guy is the sauce to the stuff. And we've just given him the strength or the security or whatever it was to build this thing. And so and I love my brother. That guy's, have you ever met my older brother?
Yeah.
He's crazy. I mean, he's a workaholic and I'm just...
Every time at the ranch, he's on his laptop.
Totally.
He has to have his emails going.
He's like an Iron Man. He's like a distant swimmer. I mean, he's got OCDs that he's putting to work, which is a good formula.
Good. Yes. So you're doing that now. Does that give you the ability to now work, maybe bring back these films that you originally wanted to do in the first place?
Yes.
And start back into what you originally started?
Yep.
So what's that like?
So, and I haven't done it yet, but
you have done music videos,
sure.
short film stuff, and you have gotten back into.
I've got a couple scripts ready to go. I'm writing. In fact, I just picked up a job. I guess I call it a job. Guy wants me to adapt a vampire western for him, so I'm
perfect.
First act into that. And so there's a lot of things that are teeing up, but I'm absolutely going to get back to movies. It's just part of me. And it always
And you never stopped writing.
No.
Which is, you've always done.
And selling, I sold a script to the Sci-Fi Channel. I think you read it, Osambi.
Yes.
Back when I was at Vivint, I was just moonlighting that one. And that was an interesting experience. But yeah. I'm
not going to stop.
No. Well, it just kind of gets in your blood. Dude, you're doing a song a day. I mean, it gets in your blood.
I can't stop. 158 days. I might stop.
158? I thought you were like at 254 or something.
Or sorry, 258.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a lot, dude.
I forget.
Yeah.
I heard the 10,000 hour challenge, and to be proficient in something was 10,000 hours, and I mapped out it would be 4 hours of writing every day for 9.5 years. And I was like, I cannot hold myself accountable for that. I'm not going to do that. And so I just put it on Instagram. This is a side note, but yeah, it's something in you.
Dude,
just
and you know what? I was
just
kind of
keep
laughed at
going.
that. I'm like 10,000 hours. Some people learn faster. Some people, skid row it and just take forever. But dude, it's true. It is true.
It's a lot of hours.
And literally at 10,000 hours, at least in my experience, you have an answer for everything. You've seen everything. You've seen the best of times. You've seen the worst of times. You know how to get through.
Troubleshoot and get through it. And
you truly
learned,
become a professional. Yeah, at that point. So
it's been fun. No, but me starting and you getting back into it, this is 30 years of making movies, or 20, I don't know how many
20,
years, but
yeah,
20,
ish.
a lot of years.
A lot of years.
I guess
more than maybe 25, but dude, you're going to do my music on you.
I know.
You've read all my stuff.
I've read all
Your
of
wife's read my stuff, and she's like, I can't do any of this stuff. Like, no.
It's from the beginning, it just was, you were doing movies. I'm like, I've always wanted to do film score, and just the chance of you doing another movie pushed me to like keep writing music and writing score. And in a weird way, even though you haven't made one yet, it like motivated me to just like keep doing it to be ready for when that opportunity comes. And even if you don't use me, which you owe it to me already, so you have to, it's given me so many other opportunities to be able to just be like ready for that opportunity.
We'll I'm sure we'll do something together. So
we got to do something.
So my brother calls me, my older brother, the guy I work with. He's like, "Hey, you still making movies?" I'm like, "No, ding dong. I work. What do you mean? Am I still making movies? I come to work every day." He's like, "No. I mean, can you still make movies?
Can you still do it?"
And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." He said, "Well, my tax advisor or my accountant says the best write-off right now is in the film business." And
oh man, that's
he needs
perfect.
a write-off. I'm like, all right, well, how much are we talking here? So we actually meet with that guy in like a week.
Oh my gosh. So it's happening.
Well, if it does, I'm going to do that small film, the final cut, that takes place in the Spook Alley. And I wrote it really small, knowing that I would probably be funding it, and, 0 locations and diminishing cast, and
it's a movie.
A lot of blood, but
more blood.
More blood.
We can't go anywhere else, but
more
blood. Bring it in.
More blood.
So just talking about, I just wanted to get like your perspective on, I've always never wanted to work for a boss and done my own thing. And you've done both, going into the industry and being successful in both of your own thing and also working for a corporate company that you're doing it. What were kind of the ups and downs of both of those?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I found a ton of joy in both. If somebody said you have to choose one, of course it would be movies. I mean, we are flying and dying by our own hands, and there's something exhilarating about that, waking up every day going, well, it's me or no one. But I'll be honest, at 10 years, and maybe I had just got my trash kicked so hard that I was happy to go to work for someone else. No exposure. I was going to bust, tail for him and work every day and work hard, but zero risk, zero exposure to me.
And still it was
creative. A paycheck. And like I said, it was unbelievable. The huge budgets. I traveled the world. I love the guys I was working with. And so there's also a kind of a benefit to that kind of work too. Now,
for sure.
I will say, if you're slogging through a job that you hate for someone else, you got to move on. That's just, that's no good for them, because you're not going to be given 100%. And it's certainly no good for you, because you're going to wake up angry every day. So that would be, my son Finn is in the same boat. He's like, I don't want to go work for anyone. And I'm like, good for you.
Great.
But that means you have to wake up every day and figure out how you're going to, put gas in your car and keep the lights on.
It's scary.
And if you have the will and the gumption and all that to do it, you're going to be successful for sure.
Just coming full circle of, you had this opportunity to be set up for life and said, no, I'm going to do my own thing. And it worked out, and then it didn't. And then
it did.
And then it did.
And I'm praying it still does.
And then and I mean, Vivint did work, but you're corporate and you left that. And then again, successful in another field that's completely different, but just goes to show, like, no one's going to take that away from you. You weren't handed anything. You did it. You were happy in doing something that some days were hard and some days are awesome to be doing that. Are you glad you went that route of just
100%. Yeah. Again, like I said, 2008 that put 50 years on my life. It was just, and your dad, you mentioned your dad.
Yeah.
Believe me, I wasn't the only one. I think 40 million people lost homes over the course of the year and 2 years that followed. So, for me to, sit down on the curb and, wring my eyes, I just had to get up. I know I had to just get up and fight back. So yeah, you're going to have those dark days for sure. But I think that's all part of it.
But the risk, just the biggest thing on just the risk of, you said it, if you're doing something that's making you unhappy, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
And it's way easier said than done, because you can find yourself in those jobs that make sense, and I'm not happy this time of the day, but when I go home and I'm married and I have my family, then I'll find time to be happy then. Yeah. And it wasn't going to work for me and a lot of people that listen to this, of just being creative and wanting to do something different.
It's for sure a balancing act, because you have responsibilities. I mean, you have things that you have to step up to the plate. And unfortunately, all of your, so Marnie's little brother, who owns Pride now, he just bought his dad out.
Jeez.
Crushing it.
Yeah.
Awesome kid. When I was GM, he thought he was going to be a pro snowboarder. He dropped out of high school, was awesome at pro snowboarding, but the difference between the number 1 guy and the number 20 guy is fractional. I mean, it's fractional. Yeah. Impossibly hard. And that's one of those, he finally came to his senses and went, well, I'm privatized. Yeah, I got my board taken care of, but it's not a signature board. Nobody's paying me to do this. I have to go, meet reality in the face. Yeah. And luckily fell into a great thing. But my point is, it's a balancing act. And sometimes you might get stuck in a job where you're doing it for your family, knowing that at 5, you can go home and be with them and find some joy, and then wake up and just slog through the next day.
Yeah. I
would
do it.
I know. And you know what? Life is too short too. And I don't know, Zach, it's a balancing act. Finn, my son, originally said, Dad, I want to be a filmmaker. And I'm like, that's a bad idea.
I wouldn't do that.
I said, I don't know. I said, if you're serious, you can't go to college. You need to go to Hollywood, work from the bottom up. You're going to be schlepping coffee and dry cleaning. And then you'll become someone's assistant because you're a nice kid and you don't have a drug habit, and you're not, you don't have,
yes,
you don't have, social diseases. You're a good kid. You're not a liar. You don't, and pretty soon you move up. Yeah. You really do. And
have you seen that throughout your life? Just like
100% I have. Yeah.
Ready for the opportunity. It's not just luck. Like, if you really are ready for that opportunity, something's going to catch.
And if you live your life accordingly, something's going to catch anyway. And believe me, Hollywood is full of train wrecks. I mean, there's don't get me wrong, there's some great people down there and good family people, but there's a lot of disasters that
it's easy to be the good
geniuses
guy. Yeah.
And somehow hang on. But you're just like, dude, if you didn't have this kind of a problem, you'd be unstoppable.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, to your point, I have friends that left BYU film school, went straight down, with their college degrees and started from the bottom, because it's a trade at that point. They don't give a crap about your diploma.
No.
And good LDS dudes, and one's not, but good kid, had his life put together, and he managed Pink Cadillac for years, which is Sandra Bullock's production company.
Starting from
moving dry cleaning for the South Park guys, Trey and Matt Stone, or Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
Jeez.
And they're like, yeah, we got Mormon friends. He's like, well, I'm not really in the church, but is anyone really in your church anymore? I mean, but they loved him, and they kept kind of moving him around, and then he got to look somewhere else and jumped to Amblin. I mean, he, and then settled on, he did all the early Batman films with Christopher Nolan. He lived in Japan for years, and just a good kid that
was ready for
it and gave his life to it. And, now he's,
So future for you, I guess you already kind of hit it, but still I mean, you didn't do it for the money, and you're making films and writing, and you're going to keep doing that. And along the way, successes, failures, not failures, but the world
I
failures.
Believe me, I had a few for sure. I mean, nothing I look back and went, that failed because I didn't, give it all I had. That wasn't ever part of the failure equation. But in this business, and this, it's impossibly hard to second guess an audience.
Yeah.
So you think you're making the film they want to see, and no one shows up, and that's normal, I think, in a lot of cases.
Did you write movies for other people at some point, or was it always for what you wanted to be writing, or what was that balance?
No, the balance was tricky there too. I think the worst decision I ever made was Church Ball. I don't know if you guys remember that one.
I've seen it, yeah.
So I'm in the shower and I'm thinking Underdog, and I'm like, Church Ball. Oh, I could sell this movie on the title alone. And it was conceptually a lot of fun, and then just execution wise, it just didn't really work.
Yeah.
And primarily because we had an investor who was completely insane, who said, dude, we need to cross over. This has to cross over. We want to get everyone in the whole world knows what Church Ball is. I'm like, dude, no one knows what Church Ball is outside of our culture. Trust me. No, man, we need to get Chevy Chase. And he wanted all these names, and it inflated the budget. And I never felt good about it, ever. And sure enough, we made a show that was trying to cross over, when I knew in my heart, you pick your audience and you cater to them.
Yeah.
And you don't disappoint. Like all the, the LDS people showed up and went,
what are you trying to do?
Yeah, this isn't just for, us. We want to, so no, that was one of the cases where you just kind of fall in line, and I'm not, like I said, no regrets, but if I could go back in time, I would have done that one differently. And then, in corporate and commercials, a client is stepping up and paying you. So you're catering directly to you, it becomes very collaborative, and you're collaborating with people who have no creative bones in their body.
It's tough, I'm sure.
So I'm like, you need to tell me exactly what you're hoping for, and I will get it, but I have to know so that at the end of the day, you feel like your money's well spent.
Yeah. And
so those are interesting meetings, but.
And now you're back to
now I'm back to writing,
just
for myself.
Doing your own thing. Yeah.
But again, there's they say film business, your show business.
Yeah.
It's probably 40% show, 60% business. So even the stuff I'm writing, like for example, Final Cut, you've read that. It's 94 pages. It's tight. It's one location. So again, I can't have this, this building fall down in one of my scenes, because
what your budget is
exactly
and what you're
right.
writing for.
So I'm writing very specifically to, to that kind of a film. Yeah. And
still creative in the sense of you can accomplish it and do it.
Exactly. And it's funny. I brought up this vampire Western that I just barely started on. It adapted from a book that's, I think, kind of a tweener. I just went, well, is this Goosebumps, or, where are we in this? Is this, but again, I'm sort of being teed up for a client. So I'm like, what's your limit here? I have my own lines, by the way. I don't, sex and nudity, it would be really awkward to shoot, by the way. And I, so that's one of my hard lines. Yeah. But I'm like, hey, is it Western swearing? Can we say, damn and hell? And where are we at on that? And I said, and to be honest, the vampire that you wrote was the old Victorian style with like 2 razor teeth and kind of femmy. Nothing wrong with Femi, but you know how they are. They're just kind of flamboyant and capes and, and I'm like, dude, my idea of a vampire is someone that's going to rip your neck out and tear your arm off while he's doing it.
Too many church movies made you go crazy.
Can I go that far at least? Well, it's funny you say that. I've been a horror fan my whole life.
I know.
A giant horror buff, and it writes the same as comedy. You have your setups and your punchlines. And in comedy, you get a laugh, and in horror, you hope you don't get a laugh. You hope you get a scare or, something. Yeah. So trust me, they write exactly the same. And now I'm trying to blend them. There's a little bit of humor in some of my stuff.
Comedy, horror, a great place for you to be in.
My zombie film, not no zombie. By the way, if the listeners at home, you can find that all over. It's on Amazon. But when I sold that, it was so ridiculous the tone was kind of not winking at itself. It wasn't a comedy, but it was aware of itself in a lot of ways. And so the dialogue was really light and sarcastic, and the zombie kills were a lot of fun. And then sci-fi takes this thing and like tries to make it like drama and angry. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys, you changed the tone and you can't fix that now. So best of luck.
Good luck. I did my part.
Well,
See you later.
My contract allowed for an edit. So when you sell something, you're giving away all the intellectual property. You don't own it anymore whatsoever, which means they can hire writers, they can cut scenes, they can add scenes.
That's
And
gotta be difficult.
They came back. I think the contract stipulated 2, not rewrites, but punch ups. And they kept saying, we need an opening scene. We need to know where these zombies come from. I'm like, no, that's like zombie rule number 1. You don't want to know where these things come from. Otherwise, it's stupid and it's on your channel. We need to know where the zombies came from. And so we write this opening scene that it was just silly. But then, and they're like, okay, that's fine. We're going to go make this movie. And so they make it. And like I said, there's some writers or something along the way and added stuff. So I get it back and I'm with their editor and he's like, all right, you ready? We're in the editor. I'm like, yeah, hit spacebar. Let's go. And 20 minutes into the show, he hits, spacebar again. He's like, dude, if you want to just ham and egg this, we can go get some lunch and just call it good. Or if you want, dude, we can just shred this thing. It's kind of sucking right now. And I'm like, okay, bro, let's get back to 1. And I shredded that thing. I took out every bit of stuff that wasn't mine. I was trying to change tone. Like I said, the tone was all wrong. And I didn't care because it's their film.
Yeah.
They allowed me one edit.
Yep.
So I send it in, with my finger up. Not really. Yeah. These are good people, but I just went, all right, well, there's my pass. You could put it all back. They call me up like 2 weeks later. Oh, we've run it through, a couple test audiences and stuff, and we love your cut. And we'll give you an editing credit if you'll go back through it and tighten it down. And I'm like, well, I'm not an editor, but I think I have an editing credit on it.
Oh, sweet.
But
wear many hats.
But we fought again over one scene. I'm like, you can't have that scene in there. That is the dumbest scene in the world. The scene needs to stay. It makes no sense. The scene is staying. No lie. There is and I sent. I was redeemed to like the highest most redemption. There was a critic in London that said, hey, the dialogue's pretty snappy in this. It's kind of fun. The tone's a little off. And there's one ridiculous scene in there.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yes. So I forwarded the article onto the producer over there and never heard back. I'm like, yeah, suckers. And then they call me up, hey, do you have another one we want to do? And I'm like, no. Well, actually, that's not true. They said, we want to do a part 2. I'm like, dude, I've blown Osama. He's in bits. He can't reanimate at this point. Well, you got to figure it out. We want another one. I said, all right, well, send me a contract. And I don't know if I never got a contract or if I got it and just chucked it, but we never did another one.
This guy's throwing away contracts.
No,
Take a lesson.
Zach, believe me, these are small shows.
But you have had a very successful career in a creative field. And that's why you're here. You're my friend, but you're also been pretty dang successful in it.
Like I said, I hope your audience has any clue whatsoever of who I am. It's been a long time, my friend. I've been hiding out.
Well, even if it's just me hearing the advice, I want it. But no, it's very good. Is there anything else? I mean, I think we kind of covered everything. Just, I mean, to go over it, you hit it kind of, but on people wanting to do that space, like your biggest advice on being able to do that?
I'm probably the wrong guy to ask. You probably need to ask your parents because they probably tell you the same thing that I told my son, pick another field. But at the same time, it was so interesting going through film school. Some people just kind of didn't get it. Like you just get music.
Yeah. I love it.
And if you went in cold and said, well, I want to play the guitar so I can compose films. I mean, you're stepping back into your life. You probably picked up a guitar at age 5. And so you just kind of get it or you just kind of don't. And you could pick the people that got it.
Yeah.
And the other ones are important too, because they want to be around it, but they end up being, an office or, nothing creative. And so my bit of advice is, if you've got it, you are blessed with it. It's a talent that you need to exploit.
Yeah.
And
you should
like
be
I
doing
said, you're a great example of that. You started, I don't know where you got it. I guess your dad was a musician.
My dad can play guitar, but after his mission, he cut off his fingers. So
okay,
in a
so now he's
table saw,
playing with his elbow.
So he's
just bar chords.
He has some prosthetics, but he has a couple guitars and taught me like the basic chords. But yeah, piano is. I have one aunt that's amazing, but came from nowhere.
That's what I'm saying. So you didn't have to go, I need to do piano lessons so I can create music. You just sat down at the piano. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Same with your brother. I mean, you guys genetically have some predisposition for a talent that, in your own words, came from nowhere.
But the 60% of business is where we're at right now. And it's difficult.
And that's tenuous, because there's hustlers out there that have been blessed with the same talent. And then it just becomes a hustle game.
Yeah.
Who's thinking out of the box, or who's trying to be more original, and who's grinding and making songs every day. Trust me, Zach, those people rise to the top. They do. And it may take a while.
Yeah.
And you're going to get bummed out along the way. But I'm telling you, just from my own experience, those are the people that end up finding, the joy in doing stuff they want.
Yeah.
For sure. And trust me, you're not going to get super rich unless you get real lucky.
Not rich? What am I going to do?
Well, I think you brought this up earlier in our show. If you're doing it for the money only, man, you're taking a real big risk, because the money's tricky. It's really hard. You may come out with something that could change the world, and it was either mismanaged, or the timing was wrong, or you had the wrong actor, or something. I mean, there's just so many weird variables.
It's not for that, but we get to do things like this, and I hope anyone listening, this isn't the only creative space of film and music, but anything that you want to be doing, it was difficult at times of like, why I play piano, why am I really doing this? And it's been cool to interview people and see that just like stay passionate about what it is you really love.
Yeah.
And
that's the key.
Not been successful yet, but it's been fun.
Yeah. And you know what too? Just super quick, I know we're probably wrapping up. You may have to go do a day job to cover your nut, and then you come home and you sit in front of your piano and find all your joy. Yeah. Obviously you're finding that in a lot of ways. So, it's been no shame in that, by the way.
I know. I hope I can quit someday, but if it's half and half, then I'll take it.
Absolutely.
No, it's
and
great.
What happens is the half that you're really good at and really passionate about will eventually rise.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on. Is there anything else?
No, you guys are awesome. Thanks for having me again. I'd be very interested to know how many people out there are like, who's this dude? He sounds pretty cool.
What did he do?
Never heard of him.
Look him up. His Instagram is Hale. You're going to think his name is Kurt Hale.
Oh, that's Instagram. You can check me out on IMDb.
Look him up. Kurt Hale. Look up what he's done.
IMDb is so funny, by the way. I have no idea who curates all that stuff. I've never once put anything. I didn't even know I had a page.
People know.
And I just went, and this was years ago. I went on there and went, wow, that's pretty up to date. There's
cool.
a few things missing, but oh well.
Yeah, you email him and say, I've done a couple more things.
Yeah.
I've done the 98 Studios podcast. You're going to have to put it on.
That's right.
No, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's been a great time.
Awesome.
So fun.
Thank you.